as we're going to bring in via Zoom Congressman Brad Sherman, Democrat from the state of California, senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And I want to start in California this morning, Congressman. Appreciate you joining us. The violence we saw overnight at UCLA, the protesters, the counter-protesters, the Los Angeles Police Department eventually having to separate the two. Just your reaction to what happened on that campus.
It's obviously a tragedy. We want everything to be calm and orderly. I'm a Bruin myself, and at the same time, we can't have a circumstance where Jewish students are not allowed into the library, into classrooms, unless they swear that they hate Israel. That is a level of anti-Semitism and a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. So I look forward to order being restored, and I would hope that those who protest on one side would stay away from those who are protesting on the other side. But no one should be preventing students from going to the library or to classes.
That happening overnight at UCLA. Of course, police removing protesters from a building at Columbia University. Here on Capitol Hill today, we're expecting a vote on the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. What would that bill do, and are you supporting that legislation?
I support that legislation and co-sponsored it. And the main part of that legislation is to say that to advocate the destruction of Israel and the ethnic cleansing of all Israelis and pushing them literally into the Mediterranean is anti-Semitic. It's strange. That should be obvious to everyone, but apparently there's some who deny it. If I came on C-SPAN and said, abolish Slovenia, destroy Slovenia, you would probably think I was anti-Slovenian. So this establishes a basic principle that, of course, you can criticize the Israeli government. I do that often. Every Israeli I know does that at least once a week. But when you call for the forcible removal of all Jews or the end of self-determination for those Jews who live in the Holy Land, that is anti-Semitic. I think it's pretty clear. And by the way, that is the definition that the United States government has been using for 15 years in evaluating anti-Semitism in other countries. The State Department, of course, comments on human rights, including anti-Semitism in other countries. That's the definition we use to criticize the University of Bucharest. We should certainly use that same definition to criticize Columbia.
Your Democratic colleague, Jerry Nadler of New York, a member of the Judiciary Committee, called this bill a bill that threatens to chill constitutionally protected speech, saying speech that is critical of Israel alone does not constitute unlawful discrimination. This bill sweeps too broadly.
I think Jerry has it wrong. I know he hasn't focused on how this very definition has been used by the U.S. government under 3 administrations. There is a belief that anti-Semitism is free speech, Nazism is free speech, racism is free speech. But on campuses, we do have a rule that when that rises to a level to interfere with education, that it's not allowed. And so just defining something as anti-Semitic or racist or homophobic does not mean that it's illegal. It may, in some cases, be protected by the First Amendment. But when it forms the basis of an effort to prevent Jews from getting an education on campus, then it's not only anti-Semitic, it's illegal.
I want to go to overseas foreign relations, but staying on the topic of Israel. Expectations for the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, as he travels to the Middle East, to Israel this week.
The Israelis have made an offer for a 40-day ceasefire that is basically the position that Hamas was taking a month ago. The release, not of all the hostages, and obviously every hostage that's seized or retained is a terrible violation of human rights, but a release of those who are aged, those who are wounded, a release of some of them in return for a 40-day ceasefire. And Hamas sees what's going on in the United States, and they think that the position they took is something they're going to back away from, and that somehow the United States is going to protect them while they refuse to even stick to the position that they offered a month ago. I think that it's up to Hamas to accept. This is not just an Israeli offer. This is the position of Egypt, Qatar, the United States, and a month ago it was the position of Hamas.
And as Israel makes this offer, though, the front page story in the New York Times today, Netanyahu's comments that Israel's still reserving the right to keep the fighting going. The idea, quote, the idea that we will halt the war before achieving all the goals is out of the question, he said in a meeting with families of hostages being held in Gaza. Quote, we will enter Rafah and we will eliminate the Hamas battalions there with or without a deal in order to achieve total victory.
Every side in every war asserts that its goal is total victory. This is a 40-day ceasefire proposal that's been put forward by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, but it's a 40-day ceasefire. At the end of that ceasefire, hopefully, they will negotiate the departure of Hamas fighters from the region and the return to a Palestinian-controlled, peaceful, non-Hamas Gaza. If that can't be done, keep in mind the statement of Hamas is that they will drive Israel's forces out of Gaza and then repeat October 7th, in their words, again and again and again and again. Well, that's not a ceasefire. That's not a permanent ceasefire. So we need a 40-day ceasefire. We need the release of some, and I would like to think all the hostages. And then there needs to be governance in Gaza that is not Hamas and is not dedicated to trying to kill 1,000 Israelis every night they possibly can.
One more question on this topic on the foreign relations front. Reports that the International Criminal Court is preparing to arrest or issue arrest warrants, I should say, to Israeli officials over the prosecution of this war in Gaza. What do you make of that? And is there a role for the U.S. here?
If that were true, then then some would call the International Criminal Court a kangaroo court, but I think that would be an insult to marsupials everywhere. This is a court that has not indicted Hamas, that has seen 500,000 people die in Tigray in northern Ethiopia, and has not issued an indictment. This is a court that has done nothing with regard to Sudan for about a decade. This is a court that seems only to convene to get big headlines by attacking Israel. The fact is that we have not ratified and joined this court for a reason, and I think that they do themselves more damage, but I think they've done themselves great damage by their failure to focus on all the conflicts and all the crimes that the media doesn't cover, such as the nearly 1 million people driven from their homes in Myanmar, Burma, just because they're part of the Rohingya, or the 500,000 who died in Tigray, or the 18 million who are facing famine-like conditions in Sudan because of war crimes. The ICC only seems to focus on Israel.
Just to walk down this road a little bit, if the ICC does issue these warrants, and if Israeli officials or Benjamin Netanyahu, who may be the target of these warrants, if they were to travel to the United States, would the United States have any responsibility when it comes to the ICC?
Absolutely not. I mean, if the North Korean court were to indict you, that doesn't mean that the American police will arrest you and send you to Phnom Penh. This is that we do not acknowledge and have not signed or ratified the treaty for the ICC, nor do we recognize North Korean courts. Which of those two is less credible will be determined in the weeks to come.
And then final minute here, Congressman, just coming back to Capitol Hill, we showed viewers about a half an hour ago part of Marjorie Taylor Greene's press conference. She said she would trigger her motion to vacate resolution against Speaker Johnson, quote, next week. some time moving ahead with that effort. Your reaction, what this means for Congress in the weeks or perhaps months to come?
I think this shows the disarray of the Republican caucus or conference, and the reason why Democrats should be put back in control of the House of Representatives. Here's what Speaker Johnson did the right thing, finally. And of course, Ukraine has had to retreat because these defensive weapons are getting to them 6 months late. But finally, he did the right thing. And instead of wanting to punish him for delaying arming the Ukrainians for 6 months, she's trying to punish him for finally doing what was necessary in order to defend Ukraine. So I think I know Democrats will not let that happen. I believe Speaker Johnson will be the speaker right through the end of this year, and I look forward to electing Hakeem Jeffries speaker next year.
Congressman Brad Sherman, Democrat of California, senior member of the House Foreign Relations Committee. Appreciate you giving us some time this morning.
Good to be with you, John.